Life often has this peculiar habit of hurling unforeseen challenges your way, particularly at moments when you believe you've got everything neatly sorted out. I could never have pictured that heading back to my hometown following my college. Graduation would plunge me into such a tangled and intricate scenario, but that's precisely where I found myself. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Ethan Thompson, and I'm here to share the story of how my entire existence flipped completely on its head. Initially, the decision to move back in with my father, Dylan, and my stepmother, Aurora, appeared to be a sensible and practical choice. The employment landscape was proving to be incredibly challenging, and residing with them during my job hunt seemed like a smart way to handle my finances without unnecessary strain. Aurora had served as my stepmother for a solid 15 years by that point, and our relationship had always been harmonious and positive. She felt more like a trusted confidant than a traditional parental figure. At 62 years of age, Aurora possessed a remarkable poise and vitality that belied her actual years, making her seem far more youthful than one might expect. She maintained her physical well-being through regular sessions of yoga and leisurely swims, and her hair, a blend of silver streaks woven into warm brown tones, elegantly accentuated her gentle and approachable features. From the very beginning of her time in our family, she had been someone I could turn to for advice or just casual conversation, bridging the gap between generations with ease. Those initial weeks upon my return to the family home unfolded in a comfortably predictable manner. My father put in extended hours at his bustling construction firm, overseeing projects that kept him occupied from dawn until dusk, while Aurora handled the operations of her modest online enterprise right from the comfort of our living room. As for me, my days were filled with the monotonous yet necessary tasks of polishing my resume, submitting applications to various companies, and gearing up for potential interviews that I hoped would soon materialize. One particular morning, which started off just like all the others, would prove to be the catalyst for everything that followed. I had a crucial job interview scheduled for later that afternoon, so I was in the bathroom preparing myself meticulously. The hot shower had created a thick layer of steam that clouded the mirror entirely, and I was in the midst of shaving with careful strokes when a gentle tap echoed on the door. It was Aurora's voice filtering through, politely inquiring if she might pop in briefly to retrieve her daily medication from the cabinet situated above the sink. Without giving it a second thought, I assured her it was fine to enter. We'd long maintained a relaxed atmosphere in the household regarding such everyday interruptions. She stepped inside, clad in her customary silk robe, and extended her arm toward the upper cabinet. What transpired in the next instant unfolded as if time itself had decided to slow down dramatically. As she reached higher, the edge of her robe snagged momentarily on the cabinet's handle, causing a brief tug that she quickly corrected. In that suspended moment, our gazes connected through the hazy reflection in the mirror, and we both became acutely conscious of the unexpected awkwardness hanging in the air. Aurora swiftly adjusted her attire, her face turning a subtle shade of pink from the minor mishap. "I'm terribly sorry about that, Ethan. Please, let's keep this little incident between us and not mention it to your father," she murmured softly before exiting the room in a hurry. Throughout the remainder of that day, my mind kept drifting back to the morning's minor occurrence, distracting me to the point where focusing on my interview became nearly impossible. It stirred up a swirl of unexpected emotions and thoughts that I hadn't anticipated feeling toward Aurora. She seemed to steer clear of me for the rest of the evening, and our family dinner that night passed in an unusually subdued and tense silence, with conversations feeling forced and minimal. The following morning, I discovered a small note that had been discreetly slid beneath my bedroom door. Aurora's graceful script requested a private discussion once my father had departed for his workday. My pulse quickened as I absorbed the words, sensing intuitively that this talk held the potential to alter the dynamics of our household forever. We convened in the kitchen shortly after Dad's departure, with Aurora positioned across the table from me, her fingers cradling a steaming mug of coffee, her expression revealing a vulnerability I'd rarely witnessed in her before. "Ethan, regarding what happened yesterday," she initiated, her tone carrying a slight quiver. She confessed that the brief awkwardness in the bathroom had awakened emotions she hadn't foreseen, sentiments she believed were behind her at this stage in life. To my own surprise, I opened up as well, admitting that the incident had lingered in my thoughts, creating a new layer of connection between us. The atmosphere in the room grew thick with unspoken understanding as we sat there, both recognizing that a subtle shift had occurred in our relationship. Aurora extended her hand across the table, her touch light and reassuring, sending a warm sense of comfort through me. Before long, we found ourselves standing nearer to one another, the soft rays of morning sunlight filtering through the kitchen window, casting a gentle glow on Aurora's features and illuminating the mix of hesitation and warmth in her eyes. Time appeared to pause as we drew closer, sharing a heartfelt embrace that lasted just a few moments, but felt profoundly significant. We stepped back, and the weight of what had just transpired settled upon us. Aurora placed a hand over her mouth, briefly, whispering, "This feels complicated," though her eyes conveyed a deeper sense of connection. I knew logically that I should have distanced myself right then, but an inexplicable pull kept me rooted in place. In the days that ensued, our interactions transformed into a subtle ballet of exchanged looks and maintained distances. We endeavored to behave as usual in my father's presence, yet the undercurrent of this newfound bond was difficult to conceal entirely. Every incidental brush of hands or solitary moment together carried a heightened sense of meaning. I began fabricating reasons to linger at home more frequently, ostensibly to focus on my job search, but in truth, I was seeking opportunities for quiet time with Aurora. She too appeared to orchestrate her schedule to coincide with mine, appearing in the same spaces with increasing regularity. The internal conflict weighed heavily on us both. One afternoon, while my father was still at the office, Aurora entered the living room where I was seated, reviewing yet another batch of job listings. She appeared somewhat distressed, her typical calm demeanor showing signs of strain. "We really ought to discuss this further," she suggested, shutting the door softly behind her. She took a seat next to me on the cozy sofa, close enough that I could detect the soothing aroma of her lavender perfume, the very same fragrance that had provided solace during my teenage heartaches, now evoking a fresh wave of emotional depth. Our conversation stretched on for hours, covering a wide array of topics from the profound to the mundane, the challenges of our current circumstances, the rightness or wrongness of our growing closeness, and the sheer impracticality of allowing it to deepen further. Amidst our words, the sound of the front door closing abruptly snapped us back to the present. My father had returned earlier than anticipated, prompting us to separate quickly, smoothing our appearances to feign normalcy as his footsteps approached. That night at the dinner table, seated opposite my father, the burden of our private exchanges felt overwhelmingly heavy. He chatted animatedly about his workday, oblivious to the afternoon's events shared between his wife and son. Aurora picked at her meal with little appetite, her thoughts evidently elsewhere. Later that evening, I found another note from Aurora, tucked away in my room. "Meet me in the garden at midnight." Rationality dictated that I should disregard it and put an end to this evolving dynamic before it complicated matters further. But curiosity and connection compelled me otherwise. Under the cover of night, we sat together on the bench, our legs brushing lightly. The cool evening breeze contrasted with the warmth I felt inside. "I can't seem to shake these thoughts about our talks, Ethan. It's troubling, but I've never experienced this level of understanding before," she confided. I echoed her sentiments, the words lingering in the air like a shared secret. We embraced once more, this time with greater emotional intensity, her hands resting gently on my shoulders, as mine supported her back. The prohibited aspect of our deepening bond only amplified its significance. A distant dog's bark jolted us apart, reminding us of our exposed position and the potential risks involved. Aurora rose, adjusting her posture, and noted, "We must be cautious about this," her gaze suggesting a continuation of our meaningful exchanges. We committed to greater discretion, seeking out safer instances for our conversations. The subsequent days felt like an exquisite form of agony, observing Aurora interact with my father in everyday ways while our concealed connection simmered beneath the surface. Family meals turned into tests of composure, requiring immense self-restraint. Sleep eluded me often as I lay awake contemplating Aurora in the adjacent room, the house feeling constrictively small for the emotions brewing within. One morning, discovering Aurora solitary in the kitchen anew, the recollection of our initial heartfelt talk there loomed large. Wordlessly, she approached, and we shared another embrace, fitting together with a natural ease. We recognized the dangers we were courting, each shared moment drawing us nearer to possible discovery. But the pull of our emotional link proved irresistible. Aurora attempted to establish limits to preserve appropriateness, yet whenever solitude presented itself, those barriers dissolved effortlessly. Day by day, the intensity mounted. Ordinary interactions gained profound undertones. Crossing paths, in the corridors, locking eyes during meals, or light contacts while handling chores. My father sensed a shift in the household atmosphere, but chalked it up to the pressures of my employment pursuit. If he only knew the true source of the alterations in his son and wife's demeanors. As time progressed, our bond evolved beyond mere surface-level exchanges into something richer and more intricate. What began as simple conversations blossomed into deep, soul-bearing discussions, where we revealed aspirations and fears we'd kept hidden from others. The remorse persisted, yet it was eclipsed by the depth of our shared understanding. Each passing day propelled us toward an inevitable crossroads, a choice that would redefine our paths. That pivotal morning mirrored countless others. My father had departed early for his duties, and I encountered Aurora in the kitchen preparing coffee. She donned the familiar silk robe from our first awkward encounter, but now, intentionality colored our interaction. Our eyes connected across the space, and silently, we moved toward one another, the coffee abandoned on the counter. Aurora's hands rested lightly on my arms as we embraced, this hug infused with accumulated emotions from weeks of building connection. I positioned myself supportively, and we held each other closely, the moment feeling inevitable and profound. In that space, all concerns faded momentarily. The kitchen, a site of family routines for years, now hosted our most heartfelt exchange yet. Afterward, as we lingered in each other's presence, the ticking clock on the wall reasserted the passage of time. Aurora's fingers gently patted my back as we regained composure. "There's no undoing this now," she murmured, her voice blending contentment with worry. What followed was a period of cherished dialogues and confidential gatherings. We devised inventive methods to connect. Dawn discussions before my father stirred, midday chats during his absences, and serene evenings in the garden under the stars. Aurora appeared to radiate more vibrantly with each day, her joy enhancing, her natural glow. I discovered myself delving deeper into our emotional rapport, which transcended mere talks to forge a profound, multifaceted tie. Yet guilt gradually eroded our serenity. Each instance my father embraced Aurora or expressed his pride in me pierced like a sharp reminder of our hidden bond. We were treading a path that risked fracturing trust in the most delicate ways. One night, as we conversed in her yoga space while my father toiled late, Aurora's eyes welled with tears. "We can't sustain this indefinitely," she uttered, though her hold on me tightened contradictorily. I cradled her, inhaling the comforting lavender essence. "I understand," I responded, yet neither of us released the other. We'd grown reliant on this unique companionship we'd nurtured. The ensuing morning, my father revealed plans for a week-long business journey. Aurora and I exchanged fleeting glances, both comprehending the implications. A stretch of uninterrupted time for our exchanges. That week unfolded like a cherished reverie. We prepared meals side by side, viewed films while nestled on the sofa, and devoted extended periods to exploring one another's perspectives and histories. However, life invariably interjects reality into even the most idyllic scenarios. Midway through, my father phoned to indicate a possible early return, sparking a wave of concern that compelled us to reassess. Upon my return home that evening, Aurora awaited in the garden, her silhouette graceful against the dimming sky, though a shadow of sorrow clouded her expression. "We must address this," she said, gesturing to the bench beside her. I settled in, my heart laden with foreboding. She articulated how our connection, while genuine, rested on foundations that could undermine our family structure. "We can't persist in this manner," she continued, her voice steady yet pained. I acknowledged her wisdom, though the prospect of severance constricted my chest. "What path forward?" I inquired, dreading the reply. With reluctance, she proposed, "Your father merits unwavering loyalty, and you deserve opportunities for relationships, unburdened by complexity." The truth in her words stung, despite their accuracy. Aurora was my father's partner, and regardless of our bond's strength, that reality remained immutable. We remained seated in quiet contemplation, hands intertwined, observing the horizon's colors fade. The atmosphere carried a sense of closure, as though we were bidding farewell to a nascent yet significant chapter. "I should find my own place," I eventually suggested. It represented the logical resolution, remaining under the same roof, encountering Aurora daily while stifling our connection would prove untenable. Aurora nodded, tears tracing her cheeks. "That seems wisest." "But Ethan," she pivoted to meet my gaze intently, "understand that our shared moments were authentic. It wasn't fleeting or superficial." I drew her into a final embrace, committing to memory the warmth and comfort. "I know," I whispered. The embrace lingered, tender and poignant, encapsulating unspoken regrets, affections, and unattainable aspirations. The next day, I informed my father of securing an apartment nearer to urban job prospects. He reacted with surprise but encouragement, commending my proactive stance. Aurora assisted with packing, both of us mindful to uphold appropriate boundaries. Each incidental contact or shared look now echoed with parting. On moving day, emotions ran high. Our connection had been unconventional and fraught with challenges, yet it held authenticity, potency, and life-altering impact. In the months that followed, I secured a fulfilling position and ventured into new social circles. I strove to progress, though occasionally in quiet nocturnal hours. Recollections of those times with Aurora surfaced, the profound understanding we'd discovered and ultimately released. Today, my father and Aurora continue their union. During visits, Aurora and I observe a respectful distance, our history concealed in yesteryears. Yet, at times when our eyes connect over the dinner spread, a faint resonance persists, the remnant of our shared journey, the tender recollections of those meaningful days and evenings. Life possesses an uncanny knack for astonishment, demonstrating that connections don't invariably adhere to conventional norms. At times, they ignite vividly and extinguish swiftly, leaving indelible marks on our souls.